Hello, and welcome to the HPTV podcast, where three podcasting muggles talk about all things HPV. Oh, I don't know anything about HPV, but the T's in there because that's very important. Because we're going to talk about the Harry Potter television series coming to HBO. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Mitchell.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Steven.
I feel like we should keep it a mystery that we're all related, but it seems a little bit obvious. Do you think people would know? I'll cut this out.
Yeah.
And they figured out
Yeah,
eventually.
you want me to cut it out?
Start
Yeah,
with
obvious.
it.
Now it is.
We're adorable.
Three siblings. I look paler than you two, and I think I'm quite tan. And Steven living in Florida, this isn't quite fair. I'm thinking it's the London winter, and I am pale. I've never been insecure about my paleness, but I just stark.
Isn't there a filter you can put on your shelf for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change the color of my ring light. That's what's gonna happen.
That's what I'm saying. You need to move it to the tungsten version of your ring light.
Well, there was
You
a
don't
really
look that
cold
pale to
one
me,
and a really warm one, and I just wanted to look good. Anyway, let's talk some Harry Potter. So, Steven, you're the oldest. How did Harry Potter come into your life / our lives? I'm gonna give you the first crack.
Yeah, no, I guess I actually should blame our older sister, Shauna. She was the one who started reading Harry Potter, and I was really curious about it. So I started book number 1. I think I was 13, maybe 14. And no, I was 13. And at that point in time, books 1, 2, and 3 were out, and we were waiting on book 4, I believe. And so I made my way through the first 3 books pretty fast. And the third book I actually read in one night because I couldn't wait to figure out what happened with Sirius Black and all the time jumping shenanigans. And then I had to wait for I don't know, a freaking year or something for book 4, and that was kind of torturous. So that was how I found it. And then, I don't know, at what point did you start reading it, Jamie?
Oh, I want to say the books came to the U.S. when I was 10, 98. Is that
Sounds
right?
right.
So our older sister Shauna bought the book and she read it to Mitchell and I. And so was like our introduction. And I believe that was 98, maybe 99, sometime around there.
Wait, where was I for this reading of book 1? I didn't get.
I'm guessing you were Steven about
You
it.
might have
And
had a life.
well, you like to read things so fast that you probably ran off in a room, or we did it and then you just wanted to read it on your own because you would have probably read it in half a day. So yeah, that was my introduction. And then I grew up with a reading disability pretty close to dyslexia. So my parents bought me the audio tapes of the first book, even though my sister already read it to us pretty early on. But Harry Potter for me was a big part of learning to love to read and teaching myself to read the way I had to learn to read. So that's a big basis of my journey overall. But yeah, I remember reading book 2 on our bunk beds, which I think Mitchell's lower bunk, and looking up at we used to write on the bunk bed. Yeah, pretty quick afterwards. And then I remember that was our experience of starting to have to wait for everything and all that.
Yeah, I think, and that's for most people in the US. I feel like 1, 2, there was not really anticipation for the third book. I remember going to the store. I think we went to a Walgreens for the 4th book. I remember the weird display. It wasn't that exciting. And then the big releases for the later ones. But we'll definitely we'll do a whole episode on what Harry Potter means to us and some of our other experiences with the franchise. But like Jamie, I had it read to me and then I took off. I was reading those books as they came out, so I was a really good reader. Now, I never got anywhere past that. I still don't read grown-up books, but I kid some, but I definitely learned to read really quickly because of Harry Potter. I remember we got points for reading books in my elementary school, and I was miles ahead of people because the Goblet of Fire was worth the most points, and they were reading it in 2nd or 3rd grade, and I'm not. I did learn to read fast because of Harry Potter, but by now everyone caught up to me. But I think it's important to know. So then, halfway through this book journey, a little over half, we start getting the movies, and the movies are I find them delightful. There's things I enjoy. I do watch them. I'll flip them on. They are a comfort food, but I see them as just an interpretation, a fun interpretation of the books, which are a masterpiece. When we hear TV series is coming out, it probably is a little too soon. We'll talk about this again in depth. We're going to let you know all these different subjects are episodes unto their own because we have a long time until the actual TV show starts. And we're going to talk about that in episode number 2. We're really going to go into what we know and what we want out of the series. But I think it's important to know that how important the books are to us and how the movies have in some ways added to it, in some ways interfered with the characters in our heads and stuff. I think it's worth exploring those characters and how they were misinterpreted, but now almost feel like canon and what that means to us. But the TV series, it is exciting to think we're going to get this story fleshed out, but there's so many questions and so many ways it can go wrong more than right.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to now, casting news has to come out soon. They're filming in the summer. So we're going to be, as news comes out, that'll be our main thing. But then we're going to take you on a journey as we jump in deeply into all of these. I don't know, Jamie, Steven, what are you guys most excited for? Or what is the biggest subject on your mind that we're going to have to evaluate?
And just the anticipation of, like, as we start to get the tidbits about casting and about, you know, sets and those first photos and stuff like that. It's really exciting. It's going to be nerve-wracking, you know, having to wait and everything, but it is really fun.
I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those things in the coming months, like this next year. I think I'm going to probably too quickly judge it whether or not I'm going to love it or hate it, and that's probably going to be a big issue. I'm already, just like the few things that come out, I have strong feelings about, and it's like, well, who really knows what's going to happen? But I'm really looking forward to it being fleshed out. When they announced the series, I was a huge fan of them redoing it, and I know a lot of people think it's like redundant with the movies, and I'm really excited to see it all fleshed out and then be able to add things from the books that we did not get in the movies, even though I also really separate the movies as their own thing. That was, I mean, being a kid when that first movie came, that was my first like real big time taking a book I love and watching the adaptation, and I was like, what is this? But I've grown to love it, each movie kind of for what they are in different ways. So I'm excited, but trepidatious at the same time.
I think the biggest game changer is just, and I mean, I know everybody knows this, but it's just the gift of time. I'm so excited for them to be able to, like, spend multiple episodes, you know, several hours on each book, because you're just trying to truncate all that into a 2.5 hour movie. I get it. There's a lot that has to come out, but that I think we've learned through the other series that have been, you know, produced into TV series is that you can really flesh everything out, and that's what I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see PUs on screen and what they do with that, right? There's so many of those little things that just made me really excited.
Yeah, it's almost limitless. And you think about some of the things that they did get right, and the Reddit, I will say, is all about casting. And you think about the good casting they had, even if it might have been inaccurate, this or that. Like, it's also, what is this tone they're going to be forward? How are they going to bring in young fans, new fans? But you have to start with the core, because Harry Potter's not at its peak right now. You know, that's kind of like Star Wars is not at its peak right now. It's going to be really interesting. So, like, yeah, and each of those things we're going to go book by book and actually talk about each of those adaptions and what we're going to want different, what can be fleshed out. We're going to talk about episodes for bottle ideas, but immediately, most likely episode 2 is already in your feeds. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Hopefully you guys got to know us a little bit and got to know what this is going to be about. Episode 2, again, it's what do we know? Let's talk about the show creator, writers, whoever's been hired. We will talk about some casting rumors, and not the speculative ones, but the ones that have maybe actually been in, you know, Deadline or something that might be a little bit more accurate. And then we'll talk about what subjects are most important to us. For me, Hagrid's hut needs to be in the same place every movie. But we will see you next time on the HPTV podcast.
Bye.